Hello, I'm Colin Baker. Of course I am, whether you like it or not. And you are listening to the Sirens of Audio. You lucky people.
Cyber control to all humans. You must leave a review for the Sirens of Audio on your podcast app. And you must like, share, subscribe, and comment on the Sirens of Audio YouTube channel. This would be most excellent.
G'day audiophiles. This is the Sirens of Audio, the podcast that explores the universe of Doctor Who and the audio medium. My name's Dwayne.
And my name is Philip. G'day audiophiles. G'day Dwayne.
G'day Philip. We are now centenarians.
Oh, I feel it every inch of it too, can I tell you?
Congratulations, Philip, on 100 episodes of this magnificent podcast.
Congratulations to you, Dwayne, 100 episodes. I'm not quite there yet, because I came a little bit later, but congratulations, because let's face it, 100 is a great achievement, and 100 of great quality too, if I say so myself.
Oh, you do say so yourself.
And I'm happy to.
We've got, I often say we've got a good show lined up.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement.
This time we really do, because we've got something very special today. We're going to be talking with the Sixth Doctor himself, Colin Baker, to help us celebrate our 100th podcast. So very pleased with that. I'm sure you were pleased with that too, Philip.
I am. I love spending time with Colin. He's a really great human being, as well as a Doctor who audio has brought to life and made magnificent. So I'm really looking forward to spending time with him.
But before we do you know what I see?
No, what happens before, Dwayne?
I still see it, even 100 episodes in. It's a rabbit hole. Let's go. Righto, Philip. So nothing controversial today. I'm just going to ask you some of your recollections of the last 100 episodes of the podcast. What are some of your memories?
Oh, well, that's a really great question. We have had some amazing guests. So let me just start with some of... I said if I start naming guests, I'm going to be in trouble. A shovel is in front of me. I guess the first guest who made a huge impact on me, because I've known her for a long time, is Louise Jemison.
Yep.
And so having Louise come on to do that double episode early on was just such a pure joy. And she's a lot of fun, and that interview is great. And actually, all the companions we've had on, the TV show companions have been marvellous. So Janet Fielding was amazing. Bonnie Langford we just had on recently. Katie Manning, slightly nuts, but always so much fun. You gotta love her. Peter Purvis was someone who was just amazing to meet. He's someone who I hadn't met on the convention circuit.
Lovely guy. Lovely guy.
Amazing. And his stories he had to tell, and his love of the show, and just his willingness to just talk about things. That was just wonderful as well. Sophie Eldred we had on. And she's just charming and lovely too. Have I forgotten any of the TV companions we've had on? I'm just running through all the Doctors. I think that is it. But we've also had the ones that have come back in terms of the recastings. Having Elizabeth Sladen's daughter, Sadie Miller, on. And Sadie's just so charming and lovely all the time.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. What about some of your memories? Come back to me, but what are some of your more memories?
Okay, well, it was I still remember the date. It was the 1st of February 2020 that the first episode went out. So we've done 100 episodes in just over 2 years. So that's pretty mammoth to get that many episodes out. We've been going virtually weekly since then, talking about a very niche subject. And my original idea was to talk about a Big Finish audio that I enjoyed once a week for 30 minutes with someone I knew. And the people I'd lined up to join me on the show fell through early on. So I started doing the podcast by myself. And because when I actually have a list in front of me because my memory is not that good of where everything is. Or actually, it's not my memory so much as I'm afraid of forgetting something important. But you came on episode 15. So there was 14 episodes before that that I was on my own virtually. And it was after the first episode that I got some encouraging messages. One from Mark Cockram, who does the All of Time and Space podcast, left a message on our feedback section, really encouraging. And Adam Richard, who does a podcast called Adam Richard Has a Theory. So for those in the UK, Adam Richard was a member of the Whovians panel, which was a Doctor Who TV show, panel show that would go to air after the episodes aired from, I think, Capaldi's last series, or so series 10, 11 and...
Oh, I thought second last. Actually, I think they did a couple of Capaldi series.
Couple of Capaldi? Yeah. Mm. So Adam was on that, and so he was to come on as a guest further down the track, so I was very excited about that. But I did the first episode by myself, and for some reason I was looking at my phone, and so the audio that was to come out that month was a prequel to Greatest Show in the Galaxy. It was called The Psychic Circus, written by Stephen Wyatt. And I don't know why, but Stephen Wyatt's name came up on my social media. So I thought, wonder if Stephen would be interested in talking with me about that. I just sent him a message, and within about 2 minutes, he replied back. It just must have been serendipitous, shall we say.
Yep.
That he got back and said, yeah, he'd love to do it. So I organised an interview with him. Then Joe Lidster was someone that I always wanted to talk to, so I thought, I'll message Joe as well. I know he'd done podcasts before, so I thought I'll talk to Joe, and he did a great show shortly after that. And then I had the idea, well, how about I try and talk to someone from the monthly series every month? That was my idea, was to feature the monthly range, because that was the one I'd subscribed to without fail. That was a non-negotiable for me. All the others I wouldn't subscribe to, I'd buy as they were released. So then I had Helen Goldwyn, John Ainsworth, people like that. So someone who was involved every month. And then they announced that the monthly range was going to be cancelled. So that was my long-term idea down the drain. And it wasn't long after that I was able to get Nicholas Briggs to come on to talk about his non-Doctor Who story called The Human Frontier. So he was happy to do that. And it was not long after that you came on. I should also mention some of the other podcasters who've come on too. So Richard Smith from Something Who was on with you. It was great to have Bob Fleming on from Prog to Who. We've had Suki. Mark Cockram came on from, I don't think All of Time and Space was even started then. So that's only been going for the last 18 months or so. We had Brendan from Flight Through Entirety, and now we've had Todd from Flight Through Entirety as well. So that's a podcast that you and I had both been listening to independently
for years.
But it was your message to me, that old feedback that you left some feedback for Neverland, I think it was, for me to play on the podcast. I went, Philip, I remember him from his days in the Doctor Who Club. I remember him. I went to a day event years ago where you were interviewing Sylvester McCoy. And I thought, he's left some nice feedback. I'll see if he might be interested in joining me for the podcast. And I don't think you wanted to at first, did you?
I was very hesitant. I still am.
Are you? Well, you shouldn't be.
I don't think I have we should say this. I'm not sure I have the voice for radio. Your lovely dulcet tones.
Thanks. Thanks, Philip.
So, it's honoured to be asked.
What I'm interested... Well, Big Finish is not about it is great quality, but it's like they've changed their tagline this year to "For the Love of Stories." And I guess that's been my tagline, and that was my inspiration for starting the podcast in the first place, was for the love of these particular Doctor Who stories. It's been my go-to for Doctor Who, even before the new series started. Throughout the new series, even though I loved it, Big Finish was still always my go-to, and it was for the love of it. And I could sense your passion for Big Finish stories as well. And as we've got to know each other more and more over this podcast, we will get to meet in person one day, Philip, I'm sure.
Yes. No, yes, interesting that we've never met in person. Well, we have met in person, but not...
Yeah, just
not
in
really.
passing. Just in passing. Years
like,
ago.
Yeah, I'm aware you were there, but I don't think I was... Yeah, didn't really talk
I
too
like the way you
much.
do that with your hand. Like, yeah, you were there.
Oh, yeah.
You're over there, I was over here.
I was with Sylvester, for goodness sake. Who are you with?
So, yeah, to have you on board's been fantastic, and your passion for the stories, and also just the way you've been able to help out with a lot of the guests as well. That's been thrilling for me, to put it bluntly. I mean, it's thrilling for both of us, but I don't quite think... I counted the guests up today. We've had 58 actors from... No, not actors. 58 creatives from... So it includes actors, writers, producers, directors. 58 in our 100 episodes.
Wow.
During that time. So that doesn't include our fellow podcasters who've come on as well.
Can I say Kenny Smith is another podcaster?
Well, Kenny Smith, yeah. It was great to have him on too, because he's like the man on the ground as far as Big Finish goes.
Yeah.
So it's great to be in touch with him. Dan from Type 40's been fantastic as well. Suki from Around the Console. So Proctor Who merged into a new podcast called Around the Console. So those guys are fantastic. But I've really enjoyed, apart from the thrill of talking to the actors, I love talking to the writers, because the writers are also fans. And to be able to have that conversation with a fan has been thrilling. Yep. And I speak to them quite often with a very high level of envy, because I would love to be writing as well. I would love to write some stories and get them made. So I sort of tap into their excitement when their stories get produced as well. I can also relate to a lot of their insecurity as writers.
Oh, you could be a writer.
Because a lot of them, surprisingly, I guess that's a process of a writer, is going through that stage of insecurity in your writing as well. So, yeah, I've been able to relate to that. Yeah, it's been thrilling. And then going from just the podcast, about a year in, we switched to podcast and the YouTube as well. So we put out the episodes on YouTube too, and most people have been okay with that. It's tapped into another audience as well. So we're sort of getting out there more and more. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I am so thankful, because it's given me opportunities to talk to people I've wanted to all my life. So, I mean, there's the whole Blake 7 crew that we managed to somehow pick up, in terms of Sally the Vet and Jan Chappell and Stephen Greif. How fortunate have we been to capture some of them and talk with them.
Thanks, Lisa Bauman.
Thank you, Lisa Bauman. I was about to get to how charming and wonderful Lisa was. I mean, the absolute joy of someone like Yasmin Bannerman. I think the two most joyous people I think we've had on is Yasmin Bannerman and Joe Sims.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, just such lovely, gorgeous people, which has just been amazing. Pamela Salem has always had a special place in my heart since I was very young, and so being able to talk to her, and then people like Tom Price, Tim Trelaw, John Colshaw, Nabil was one of our early guests.
Yep.
Annette Badland. I still look at the list of some of the people we've had, and I still haven't mentioned them all, and I'm blown away.
John Dorney, Jane Slavin.
John Gary Russell. He was just amazing. Jason Haig-Ellery. It's ridiculous. Helen Goldwyn. I mean, the joy of actually a lot of the women too. Now that we're starting to see more of, in terms of directors and writers, because Doctor Who in the past, classically, hardly any women directors at all, hardly any women writers. But now just seeing this, this whole new wave coming, and March 8th will be gone by now. But once again, the third year in a row celebrating International Women's Day on the 8th of March, and just once again producing something every year, produced, directed, written, starring all the women of Doctor Who and beyond. So I'm very it's such a great blessing to do this.
Well, you mentioned some of the women, and that was one of the most interesting podcasts for me, is when we spoke with Catherine Armitage, who is one of the new Big Finish writers. Interesting in the fact that she's one of the female writers that we just mentioned, but also for part of that time, when you first came on, I was just about to start off on a road trip for a few months. So for about 20 or 25 episodes there were all recorded by me while I was on the road. So I was in all different parts of the outback of Australia. Catherine Armitage, I remember sitting in my car out the back of a pub in Alice Springs, which is in the middle of the desert in Australia, for those who don't know, and right almost in the very centre of Australia. And so that was very interesting. You know, we mentioned Nabil. I recorded Nabil up in Darwin, and then I finished editing right down. So Darwin's at the northernmost tip of Australia, then down at the southernmost tip. I was in South Australia, down at on one of the peninsulas down there. Finished editing that one, so I'd been working on that one on my whole trip down the centre of Australia. I think Janet Fielding, I was sitting in my car again with her.
Yes,
in Adelaide. In Adelaide. I think Paul Morris was another one that we did. Really enjoyed that. I was nearly dying on that one because we did that one in the morning. I think it was an evening for him. So normally we get our guests UK time in the morning, but he wanted an evening. So it was the morning for me, and I was in my car dying of heat exhaustion because I didn't want the noise from outside coming in and affecting it. So I had all my windows up, and so that was an interesting one to record as well. But yeah, doing those recordings on the road, COVID sort of stopped me from taking my planned trip last year, and I'm a little bit glad because, yeah, it's made editing the podcast a lot easier doing it from my office than it does from my caravan. But it was, yeah, fun at the same time.
Yeah, we've had fun disasters. In terms of time zones, our biggest disaster was Pamela Salem, who we thought was in LA, but she was in Florida, and there's actually several hours difference. And we got up at, was it 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. one morning to meet with Pamela Salem, and she'd been there an hour earlier. And we sort of, oh no, mucked that up. But she was very gracious and came back the next day, and we were there at the right time.
Well, the closest near disaster that I can remember, apart from the one that I did, that was the one you did.
Yeah, that's mine.
The one that I did was that I'd organised to speak with Scott Hancock, and I was up at Darwin at the time, and I got the day wrong. So instead of a Thursday, I thought it was going to be a Friday. So there I am sitting in my caravan, 35-degree heat, the air conditioner going. I thought I was going to have a relaxing evening, and there's Scott Hancock logged into my Zoom call going, and I was thinking, what's going on? So I'm madly rushing around the caravan trying to set up my computer and shut the kids up because they're 2 feet away, making noise, trying to ring you. I can't get in touch with you, saying, quick, Philip, quick, Scott's on the line. He can only do this day. I think it turned out okay.
Well, I missed half of it.
Sorry, Philip.
And yeah, so we need to get Scott back on again because there's so much more I want to ask Scott. I just want to say too, just a big thank you to all you audiophiles out there listening to us, because as much as we are having a ball doing what we're doing, if it weren't for the hundreds and hundreds of people who are listening and watching, it wouldn't be worthwhile.
It'd still be worthwhile, but to have so many people who we can see are watching and listening and are engaged, it makes it even more worthwhile.
Yeah, so thank you for all you out there watching and listening. We're very thankful that you're there. Please go and like and make comments on Apple Podcasts and other places so more people will find us, because we think hopefully we're producing stuff that's good to listen to, lots of fun, and enjoying our times together. So thank you. So
I feel like we're blowing our own trumpet here. We have been.
We won't do this again for another 50 episodes, maybe.
We'll come back for the
150th. I think 150 we can do it again.
Oh, we did it for 50, didn't we? All right. We'll do it at 150, possibly.
Yeah.
All right. We'll jump out of this rabbit hole. It's, let me just say it's been a pleasure, Philip. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, thank you too, Dwayne.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Let's throw in a trailer for one of Colin's early Big Finish audios, and then we'll be back in a moment with Colin Baker himself.
Doctor Who, The Spectre of Lanyon Moor.
Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen.
Stefan, you have deserted me!
We daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men.
No, do not leave me!
Some external force interfering with the orientation circuits. We've been drawn off course.
I've heard that one before.
Ah, Mr. Ludgate, still enjoying the new toy?
Definitely some sort of electrical activity up on the moor.
I don't suppose the Brigadier has put in an appearance this morning?
Lethbridge Stewart, you old rogue, how are you?
I'm extremely well, thank you.
Professor!
Ah, Sir Archibald, good morning. You know the Brigadier, don't you?
Yes, we've met. Morning, Brigadier.
Morning, sir.
Any news on the Spectre of Lanyon Moor?
The what?
All of this is Lanyon Moor, right across to Tremaine 5 miles that away.
Dusk is approaching and night falls very quickly on the moor. There's quite a mist rising, so do make sure you stay on the path, won't you?
There are some very exclusive clubs in the world. Those who have won a gold medal at the Olympics, those who've climbed Mount Everest, and even those who've been to space. But one of the rarest clubs in the world is those who've played Doctor Who. And today we have one of those rare and unique actors with us. Welcome to our 100th episode, Colin Baker. And we wanted to do something special, and we thought, what could be more special than having you on?
I'm flattered. Thank you very much indeed. So, Sylvester McCoy was busy, was he?
No, we didn't even ask him first. We asked you. So firstly, how have you been over COVID and all the last couple of years?
Well, I have the advantage of being ancient. So if I was in my 40s as an actor, I'd have been devastated. But as I'm not, and Big Finish rides to the rescue by allowing us to work online. So I've done more Big Finish in the last 2 years than I've done in the previous 10, I think. I've got my own studio here, which I'm sitting in now, talking to you, which is all state of the art and all that nonsense. So I've been able to work to the level that I want to at my age. I miss theatre. I've done one television during that time. I did an episode of a thing called Emmerdale. And I've been keeping my head above water, which is more than a lot of the poor young actors, my daughter included, who left drama school just as it all started. And she's having to work in all sorts of jobs, as actors always do. When there's no work around, you find something else. So that side's been tough for everybody, except those of us lucky enough to be in the last throes of their lives, and therefore semi-retired in my case.
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking to Bonnie Langford a couple of weeks ago, and she'd mentioned how many stories she'd done as well during lockdown. I don't think she's in the last throes of life either, though.
Well, I only did one story really with Bonnie at the tail end of my season. So I actually saw I had a look at your interview with her. And wasn't she good? She's a very good.
She's amazing.
Yeah. And I there was a couple of things I'm going to pick up on from that, because she was saying that I wasn't happy during the last season. And I have no memory of that, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know all these things were going on in the background. So perhaps I was radiating something which she didn't pick up on. I don't know. But I was always happy when I was working on Doctor Who. It turned out that there were things happening behind the scenes during the tail end of my last season, but I was sublimely oblivious, having the time of my life as usual.
In some ways, that's a good way to be, but it makes it more of a shock when the dreadful decision that was made.
Yeah. Well, when you get the phone call from the producer saying, "I've got good news, the show's coming back next year." Oh, good. But I've been told to replace you. Oh, right.
Yeah. Was John Nathan Turner just trying to be funny or light-hearted? I mean, did he not think about how that would make you feel?
John?
Yeah.
I mean, I've over-egged the way that it was done to get your sympathy, really. Okay. It wasn't quite as bad. It wasn't as blunt as that. I praise-seed it. No, John and I remained very, very firm friends for the rest of his life. And I still miss him, actually. John Nathan Turner is one of those people that when certain things happen that are funny or slightly reprehensible, he's the first person I'd ring up and say, "You'll never guess what's happened, John." And we'd have a laugh together. And when you lose those kind of people from your life, you've got no one to bitch to.
Now, we really want to focus on just your audio work because, I mean, you have an amazing career, and I was looking through, just terrified at all the stuff you've done, and you've done so much telly, so much theatre, so many things. But for the last 23 years in particular, our love of you has grown all the more through your audio work and in terms of what you've done with Big Finish. So I just wondering, how did you come to work with Big Finish originally?
Well, I got a phone call from, it was probably Gary Russell back then, saying that they'd started up this company doing Doctor Who audio, and would I be interested? And I said, yes, of course I would. I'd had my favourite toy taken away from me, and someone was going to give part of it back, well, the voice box at least, if not the pictures. And the scripts appeared. And they were very good, because the thing about audio, as opposed to in-vision drama, is that you can say, this is the scariest, million times bigger than the planet Earth, and it's heading for you. Give that to a designer in television and you're in trouble. Do it on audio, it's as scary as we are scared. As long as we're scared enough, you believe it. And I've always enjoyed radio drama because I supply the images when I'm listening to a radio play. So when they say, she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, every person listening supplies a different image for that. If you do it on television and you say that line, half the people viewing are saying, she's not all that. I'll go up and better looking at that. So you've got an advantage on audio. Provided you can create with your voice and with the words the image well enough, the viewer rides along with you the listener rides along with you very happily. So I've always enjoyed doing radio, and there have been oddities. I once played on the radio a blind person, and the director, who I would typify as being a bit of an idiot, said to me, "You don't sound blind." And I said, "Tell me how to sound blind." And he said, "Well, croaky voice." So I did a croaky voice. "Yeah, that sounds blind." So there are issues you have to deal with occasionally, but never with Big Finish, I hasten to add. And I love the way they work. And all the people writing for it, bless them, the majority were Doctor Who fans back in the day. A lot of them when I was doing it, or before me, Peter or John. And not only did they understand and love the genre, but they've learnt their craft by writing all those stories themselves when they were kids, and putting them in their magazines and blogs. And now, they're mainstream, all of them. Nick Briggs, who now is the chief executive of Big Finish, I met when he was just a student wanting to be an actor. And I'm proud to say I got him his first acting job. And then he started writing as well and worked for magazines. And he's now, in my life, a very important person because he's responsible for employing me most of the time. And he's a thoroughly good bloke as well, and a very, very good writer. As soon as I see his name on a script, I know we're all right. But there's so many good writers who want to write for Big Finish. And I have to say, the standard of scripts that I've received while doing Big Finish have invariably exceeded those that I did on television. Yeah. The TV ones were fine, but the audio ones are better, partly for the reasons I've already described, that the people who buy Big Finish audios featuring Doctor Who are people who understand the genre already and are buying into it willingly, whereas a TV program, they're watching, but also there are thousands of others watching. who may not buy into it that easily. So we have a captive market with Big Finish, and an increasingly widening one, which is good.
And of course, you started working for Big Finish before they even got the Doctor Who license. You did a Benny Summerfield audio.
I did.
To start
I
with.
did. Gosh, that was a long time ago.
It was. How did the way they made their audio dramas then differ from, say, before you went into lockdown and started doing it from home? Did you see much of a change?
There was a studio in London called the Moat Studio. It kept its name when it moved from 3 different locations. The first time it was in Hammersmith, then it was in Brixton. It ended up not far from Shepherd's Bush, actually, in the Lambert Grove area. And with a lovely man called Toby, who was the sound engineer and whose studio it was. And Toby, I miss Toby an awful lot, because since lockdown, we've gone like this. We're chatting to each other online. It works for me. I know some actors don't like it, but I find it too easy to sit chatting when you're doing it in a studio, and you get interrupted in the green room, have to go and do a bit of acting. When I'm doing it here, sitting in my house, I am concentrating fully on the job. And human contact does involve looking at people. But when we recorded in London, in the studios, we were all in separate booths anyway, with glass windows, and half the other actors you couldn't see while you were working. And you can see them in the green room when we're stuffing our faces at Toby's wonderful lunches, but you couldn't see them when you're working. And actors on stage and television need that, eye-to-eye contact, which obviously you don't get in most sound studios, because you're holding a script up anyway and reading that. So you might flick a glance at the other person. So that kind of physical contact isn't essential for audio. And I quite like not having to drive for an hour and a half and park and pay the parking fee and pay for the petrol to go and sit in a studio and rush out at lunchtime and pay more parking. I love being able to get up in my own house, make my own cup of coffee. There you are. There's my cup of coffee.
Your kids.
My personalised mug my wife got for me. And I have my studio just here. And I love doing that. And we chat. So for me, 90+% is about the words and the hearing. The seeing is a bonus. And it would be nice to see my fellow actors again. I mean, I've done lots of stuff recently with Bonnie, and we've chatted like this, like we're chatting now. But we haven't actually seen each other in the flesh for quite a while. But lockdown hasn't destroyed me utterly at all. I'm very lucky. I live in the middle of nowhere, and you can get stuff delivered now. Everything. I think I went out about 4 times in a year, peering through the hedge, just making sure there's no people about, take the dogs for a walk, whatever. So, yeah, it's not adversely affected me. But if I'd been 20 years younger and desperate to work in the business I love, in the theatre, I've done no theatre for 3 years now, and I do miss it. I do miss it. And I'd like to do some more television. Done a couple of bits in films, but it's very, COVID's loosening up in Britain, as you know, the restrictions. But when I did the television I did a few months ago, we all had little squares painted on the floor. You had to stand in when you weren't doing the scene, and masked, and lots of things to wipe your hands with, and people coming near you with long sticks, passing you things up that they just wiped. They were being very, very careful. So it was a bit weird. And then suddenly you're on the set, you take your mask off, say your lines, put it back on again. It worked because I haven't caught it. So, and I don't think the people I was with did either. But it'd be nice to get back to normality again, I must confess. And I'd love to get on a film set and enjoy what the Irish call the crack, which is the interaction of actors when they're messing about and trying to make each other laugh. It's all got a bit serious now, of course.
Actually, speaking of interaction, today I was listening to a story you did for Big Finish called 100. It was the 100th monthly range adventure. And you did that with Maggie. And it really reminded me how much I miss that character and Maggie herself. What was she like as a person to work with and to work with that character that was created just for you, for your doctor?
Maggie Stables I absolutely adored. She was a wonderful woman. She'd had any number of previous careers. I might be wrong. I think working in a bank was one, being a teacher was another. And then she decided, perhaps almost my age now, that she'd like to have a go at being an actor, and did so with great distinction. And I think Nick Briggs had worked with her in something else, I think on stage. And he had this idea for the Evelyn Smythe character. And the first story we did was the one about Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. What was it called?
The Marian Conspiracy.
The Marian Conspiracy. Thank you, Philip. The Marian Conspiracy. And I thought, yes, we got someone who knows what they're doing and has a brain in her. She was a very, very bright, clever, funny, kind person. And I greatly enjoyed that. And my doctor enjoyed having the challenge of Evelyn, who was as bright as a button, very learned, and didn't tolerate any of the doctor's airy persiflage when he was banging on about something ridiculous. And she wiped the floor with him. And I like that too. So it was a great character. And I do miss her. I miss her still. I'd love to have taken that journey a little further. And I think one of my favourite stories I've done is one that featured her and was called... what was it called?
Give me a clue. What's it about?
Is it the one with Gabriel Wolfe, Arrangements for War?
Arrangements for War. It's
That's
exactly the one.
One of my favourites. Yep.
And right at the end, when I'm looking down at the couple on the bridge, that's the one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think
makes me cry every time.
Yep.
Me too. Me too.
Doctor Who. Arrangements for War.
Subjects of Galen, as Governor of the Republic of Kozapin, I know only too well that my people share a border with both yourselves and the people of Melendia. For centuries my predecessors have watched your two great kingdoms locked needlessly in violent and tragic disagreement. Disagreement that has seen land and lives lost on either side. But from today, all that will truly become something for the history books.
In about a month, a race called the Kilorans will invade the planet quite unexpectedly. Nasty lot. Run into them once or twice before. Humanoid with canine overtones, all angry and bestial.
I love you.
I know, but
nothing. I walked away from you once. I won't do it again.
We can't be together. Can we?
We can do anything.
I refer, of course, to the marriage between Christina, Princess of Galen, and Victor, Prince and heir to the throne of Melendia.
Actually, Commander, I want you and the boys here in Galen with me. I'll arrange a dozen visas. Your official status will be as my personal bodyguard in light of recent events. Understood?
Loud and clear, sir.
I want the balance of power in this wretched country shifted. Get here as soon as you can, Pocon.
Do you want some time on your own? Some time apart? Is that it?
I'm not sure.
Do you want to leave me?
Do you love me?
Of course I love you. I've always loved you. I loved you 5 years ago.
And 5 years ago, I thought the way you're thinking now. Gardener's son, in love with the princess of the whole damn country. Stupid, it'll never happen. We said we loved each other, sure, but it was never going to happen.
Look at that horizon. I feel I could just reach out and touch it. I feel I can do anything. Evelyn, I want to feel like this all the time. You make me feel like this. I love you, Evelyn. Stay with me. I'm asking you to leave the doctor.
Well, what do you say?
Aren't you coming to see me off?
Wait, Evelyn! Well, don't leave like this.
Marriage officially marks the birth of the Kingdom Alliance. Uniting your people in politics as in blood.
And that's the one that resonates with me. Perhaps is my favourite of all my. People ask me what my favourite is of Big Finishes, and I've done 10 times at least more Big Finishes than I did the TV show. Doing the TV show, you take 2 weeks to do the 4 episodes at least. When you do the same length of drama, the Big Finish is 2 days, because you don't have to learn it, you don't have to rehearse moves, and you don't have to build sets. So something you spend 2 days and a bit of prep beforehand on tends to recede from the memory quicker than something you spent 2 weeks rehearsing and filming. So some of those stories, I look at the title and I think, I can't remember that one. I haven't listened to them all either. Every now and then, and not so much recently because of the pandemic, if I got a 2-hour journey in my car, to go to a convention or to work, I'll put one on and listen to it. And I am listening in much the same way as someone who's bought it for the first time, because I can't remember what happened.
You weren't there for all of it because other actors were doing their parts as well.
Mind you, I do at least read the other people's scenes. I know there are some actors who just read their own stuff, but in order to know what's going on, I have that debate with myself, because sometimes I think, well, the doctor doesn't know what's going on, so maybe I shouldn't know what's going on. But I think as I'm a professional actor, I ought to be able to know and not be affected by. So I do tend to read all of it. I know of other actors who literally just have their own pages and busk it.
Yeah. According to the Big Finish website, you've done more than 100 stories. So
it's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot. You can't tell us what happened in every scene. Pardon?
How many did I do?
It's over 100. You've got 193 listed things that you've done on the website, but some of those are double ups. So I'd say it's probably about 120, 130 different entries you've done.
Wow,
which isn't
quite
bad.
A legacy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And as you were saying,
I have the advantage too of audio that I sound at least similar, if not exactly the same. My voice hasn't changed that much with age, but if you have to put this on the screen, people are going, "Oh, who's that?"
I actually wanted to ask you about your voice, because actors of your young era, the voice was such a major tool, and you are so distinctive in terms of you just speak and we know it's you. Now, I mean, we've heard you do lots of voices. You've done the Russians and other things, so you're an actor that can do all sorts of other things as well. But your voice is just this rich tool, like lots of people from your era. So, I mean, we look at the Tom Bakers, the Pamela Salins, all these actors that you were young with, all have these tools as voices. When did you know your voice was something special that you could use as you do?
I'm glad you think I'm a tool.
Your voice is a tool.
I have never thought of my voice as being what I would like it to be. I would love to have deep, resonant tones. Tom's voice, that's a great voice. Tom Baker. There was another actor called Baker, you know. But people are kind and they do say things about my voice and that they always recognize my voice. When I ring people up sometimes that I haven't spoken to for ages, I say hello, and they go, "Hello, Colin." And it's not because they've got caller ID, it's because they recognize my voice. I don't get it. People tell me that I sound like David Attenborough. I don't get that either. Neither do you from the looks on your face.
I mean, I would know your voice anyway. I mean, 2 or 3 lines, I would know it's you without any doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good at accents. I can usually pick up an accent quite quickly. But that doesn't always disguise the actual timbre of your voice. And my voice is lighter than I would actually like it to be. I'd love it to be down there somewhere. But then I'd sound like a complete idiot. So maybe I should be grateful it isn't down there somewhere.
Now, I think of all the Doctors, you've had more companions designed for you. And you were mentioning writers before, and I think one of the things that stands out in terms of the Big Finish stories compared to your television stories was the Big Finish writers love the Sixth Doctor. And certainly one of the things that we've seen Big Finish do is develop the Sixth Doctor in a way I guess the TV show could never do with the Doctor in terms of the characterization, in terms of emotion and relationships. Of all the companions that have been created for you, let's talk about something. Miranda Raisin, what's it like working with an actress like her?
I love Miranda. She's got my piano. We had a piano that we didn't need anymore. And I was talking to her and she said, "Oh, could I have your piano? Could I have it?" So she took my piano. Lovely. And she and her daughter have learned to play the piano on it. On being a piano, of course they would. Yeah, Miranda is lovely. I mean, it's a shame she's not very attractive. I find that difficult, working with someone as ugly as that.
No, I don't know how you cope.
But unusually for someone who is very attractive, she doesn't bear any of the worst aspects of people who know that they're very attractive. She has none of that at all. She's got a great sense of humor. She's a working actress, and the job matters to her. And I get on with her extremely well. And as I do with Flip, who arrived with her in terms of a pair when we're doing it, who has had a year of long COVID. She has been laid low by it, and it breaks my heart because she's another lovely actress as well.
Okay, newsflash. This isn't my wedding.
And this isn't 1944. Doctor, you said you were taking me home.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
Don't answer that phone.
Doctor Who. Static.
Don't answer it. Leave it alone.
Hello?
Oh, help. Please. Somebody help me. Help. Doctor. Where are you? Where are you?
Big Finish. We love stories.
Come on, Constance. Breathe. Breathe.
She's gone, Doctor. She's dead.
No. I can bring her back. I can save her.
It's too late, Doctor.
Oh, Constance. Never giving up. Never giving in. Never giving. Yeah, I love having all these new companions. I always forget their names, so you'll have to prompt me. I forget everybody's name. I once had 2 couples that I'd known independently for 20 years each arrive at my door at the same time for dinner. They didn't know each other. I opened the door. I said, "Oh, you don't know each other, of course." And I forgot all their names. And I'd known them for 20 years. So I'm afraid that's the way my brain works. So in terms of characters and actors' names, you might have to prompt me. But yeah, I suppose I have. Even more than Peter. Peter had about 9 companions at one time, didn't he? When he was doing the show. In fact, you couldn't see Peter because he was surrounded by companions.
You had Nicola Bryant. Who else would you need?
Quite. Nicola Bryant obviously was my first and enduring companion. And it was only the last story and a bit that she wasn't in. And
I love the fact that that Perry's demise has been the subject of so many revisitations. I mean, I'm of the Vroomnik variety. I believe, because it's totally preposterous that she went off with Brian Blessed. I think that's only fitting. And I wrote a graphic novel called The Age of Chaos, which I don't know if you're aware of that, but it took up on that theme, and I followed up on what happened to Queen, what would you call Queen Perry, I suppose, Iokannos' widow, after the Doctor dumped her, apparently, to the vagaries of Vroomnik.
You did have some time with Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter too.
I knew both of them back in the late 60s, early 70s, when the BBC was making lots of classic drama, including things like War and Peace and Cousin Bet and the Edwardians, and those two were in most of them. And I knew Chris Benjamin and his wife I'd worked with extremely well, and he is a lovely man. I knew, what's the other one called?
Trevor Baxter.
I knew Trevor Baxter. I've proved already. I can't remember names. I knew Trevor as well, but not as well as I knew Chris. But I mean, they came from a Tom Baker story, didn't they?
They did.
Those two characters, and it was a great story, and it was such a no-brainer to keep those characters going, because they interacted with each other beautifully. And sitting in the green room with them, they were exactly the same. They were extracting the Michael mercilessly from each other, and very funny. And Trevor was, I think, was he his late 80s? And his Brian, he hasn't got a Brian, but he does have a brain. His brain was still as agile and quick-witted. And they were fun. They were great fun. And we will not see their like again. You were talking about that generation of actors, and that they were slightly ahead of me, but they were the ones when I was a young actor that were strutting their middle-aged prowess, and it was a joy to work with them then, and then to see them again doing Big Finish.
Now, one of my favourite stories you did was called The Pirates, which was the musical episode.
Yeah.
So what was it like to get to strut your musical theatre background?
Well, Gilbert and Sullivan plays a large part in my life, because without Gilbert and Sullivan, I wouldn't have been an actor, probably, because the school I went to at the age of 11, an all-boys school, did a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta every year, all male. And at the age of 12, I was cast as Phyllis in Iolanthe. And I got a review in my school magazine saying, Colin Baker threw himself with great verve into the part of Phyllis and rarely strayed more than half an octave from the note. So I gleaned late at the time. I thought that was a good review. Yeah, I rarely strayed what an octave was. Didn't know what a note was. But I knew I loved acting at that point. And the following year, I was Rose Maybud in Ruddy Court. And the acting was all right again, I think. Can't guarantee the singing. And I just found it was, being somebody else was easier than being me at that point. Because I, like a lot of actors I've discovered, they didn't have much confidence when they were younger. So if they could pretend to be something else that they weren't, I mean, I became that funny boy in the class, the one that takes the mick out of the teacher and gets into trouble. But I did it because then I wasn't in trouble with my peers. I did actually once set fire to the interior of my desk, so smoke poured from the hole where the inkwell used to be, and I pretended not to notice it, and was told by the poor teacher, who was, bless him, he wasn't very strong. Oh, Baker, your desk is on fire. Oh, is it? And to gales of laughter from the rest of the class. I suffered for it. I got punished, of course, but but my fellow pupils liked me more than they had before. So I think a lot of actors have stories similar to that entertain your enemies and you won't be crushed.
You know what always goes well with cake and a cuppa? A good story. And you know what makes a good story? Pirates.
We were serving under Ezekiel Bones, the most feared man ever to sail these seas. It was near the Ruby Islands.
This is awful. Pirates! Hang on. We've already established that.
I say, what's going on? My hammock's all wet. Oh!
Don't you worry, Captain Swanser. No pirate will take the brave sea eagle.
You think so, do you?
You're no pirate.
I take that as a compliment.
You're not going to sing.
Cowards! You rotters! Better to die a loyal subject than succumb to the lawlessness of piracy.
I can feel it in my bones. That treasure is still there.
Treasure? Well, me name, you see. Me name's really James, see. Only they took to calling me Jem. Said he was glad he hadn't brought all the other gems home, because one was enough for him.
I'm sorry, Dr. Smythe, but this is just ridiculous.
Oh, all right. Let's say he only had one wooden leg.
And what's more, I will have it.
Oh, no. You are going to sing.
Well, yes, I am. So, yeah, Gilbert and Sullivan. And you're talking about the pirates.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was written by... Was Pirates written by
Jacqueline Rayner?
Jacqueline Rayner.
It was Jack Rayner, yeah. Jack Rayner, who's now producing my stories for Big Finish. And she knew that I had a crush on Gilbert and Sullivan. So she wrote me a very cleverly reworded, I am the model of a modern Major General. And I remember with great trepidation, I'm all right with the acting, but you know, as I mentioned, singing isn't always my forte. But patter songs from GNS are somewhat different to the principal soprano, which I played at school. And I am the very model of a Gallifreyan buccaneer. That's all I can remember. But we got through it in a couple of takes, so I haven't listened to it for a long while. I must do that. But I loved the story. It was so Arabian Nights-ish. You know, the idea of entertaining someone so they don't kill themselves.
Yeah.
And having heard my voice, I'm surprised she didn't.
It's a very powerful ending again, too.
And then years later, of course, after doing it at school, I played Sir Joseph Porter, KCB, in a national tour for the an opera company of H.M.S. Pinafore, and got away with it. So I was quite proud of that.
Of course, now you're playing a role a villainous role that you took on for an episode of Blake 7, Bayban. How's that for you, taking on that kind of a role as opposed to the Doctor for a change?
I think the moment I stopped filming Bayban the Butcher, Bayban the Berserker in Blake 7, I was on my knees begging to bring him back, even though he'd been blown up in a spaceship. We never saw him die. I said. He could have got out. He could have had an escape pod. Oh, yeah. But they didn't bring him back on television. But the character appealed somewhere because someone at Big Finish decided that Bayban could come back. And I've not enjoyed myself as much for a long time. Have you heard any of them yet? Are they out?
All of them. Yes. They're brilliant.
They're all out, are they?
Oh, sorry. The first box set is out. Plus,
right.
and another story you did in the Clone Wars series, and your novel's out as well.
Yeah. Well, I love his backstory. I mean, the fact that he was married at one point to a princess on a planet, and the fact that he has another go at getting Villa. I just loved it. He is the kind of
villainous character that you can chew the scenery with and get away with it. I just hope there's more. I'd happily do a Bayban a week, to be honest, because it's fun. It's great fun, and he's he's very self-aware, but it's that dangerous thing, actually, a villain you like. Because very often you'll see a movie and you see someone who does appalling things, and yet you feel guilty for liking them, because usually heroes are so dull and villains are often more interesting. I did a part on British television in the 70s in a series called The Brothers, and the one that everybody hated was a character called Paul Merony, who was a ruthless businessman. But it's the love to hate syndrome, because the alleged heroes were all a bit dull, quite frankly. JR.
Yep.
JR Ewing. You know, who would you rather be stuck in a lift with, Bobby or JR?
Hello again, Bayban.
You?
Yes. This will be quite the reunion.
Bayban? But he's dead.
He's looking remarkably healthy for a corpse.
From Big Finish Productions, The Worlds of Blake 7, Bayban the Butcher.
Where are my manners? You think I was raised by mutoids? Please, sit down. Can I interest you in a drink?
It's no use turning on the charm, Bayban.
But I always make an effort for guests. Look, new boots, Miss Stannis.
Captain Stannis.
Oh yes, you're a captain. I'm a captain. You might think you're better than me, but the Federation treats us both the same, you'll admit that much.
Perhaps.
So, we need to work together.
Leaving so soon?
Who the hell are you? Unhand me, or I'll break your arm.
Nice and still now. Huh? You don't want to fight a Federation ambassador in front of the Royal Guard.
You're no ambassador.
And you're not as sharp as they say, Butcher.
Travis? Impossible.
Says the man who died on Kazan.
Perfect, come one, come all, to Bayban's bloodbath.
Bayban? Oh, is that his name?
Butch? Bayban!
Bayban?
Bayban! Bayban! Ah!
King Bayban. Villa, you don't sound at all happy to see me, and when I've gone to all the trouble of preparing a magnificent banquet.
You really shouldn't have.
Oh, Villa. All you had to do was open one little door. And instead, you almost got me killed.
I did no such thing. You blew yourself up.
So much for the great Bayban the Butcher.
Bayban the Butcher has survived bigger explosions than that. I crawled from the ashes of a city.
Big Finish. We love stories.
You shut your mouth. I'm a terrible man.
So just being released is Nigel Fair's story that you read, Bayban Ascending. So that's basically 8 hours of storytelling in a novel rather than the acting. What's the difference in terms of your preparation, and how do you survive an 8-hour vocal work as opposed to a normal audio story?
Funnily enough, it arrived in the post this morning, and it's sitting on my desk there somewhere here, and I thought I'd forgotten to do it. 8 hours, was it? It was over 2 days, because obviously you go back and do retakes and retakes. Basically, the prep was a few days before, reading and rereading the script and trying to find voices that either sounded like the original voice or were different enough from mine to convince. I haven't listened yet, so I don't know how well it. Well, have you listened to it?
I've downloaded. I haven't listened to it yet.
No,
It's only just come out. So
in the last day,
time will tell. I'll have a listen. It gets quite voice intensive because with the best will in the world, and I think my throat is probably not as strong as it was. You start croaking after about 4 hours talking. But I think we got away with it. I enjoyed doing it. I like putting on silly voices.
Actually, it's been announced recently that you're coming out in a new...
coming out? What do you mean I'm coming out?
I should have said that a little bit faster, shouldn't I? You're coming out in an Unbound series as the Doctor, and a villainous Doctor. That's coming out very shortly, isn't it?
Right.
Is that right, Philip?
Yes, there's 2 Unbound box sets where you're basically rewriting Dalek history and starting the Time War.
Oh, it's the War Doctor.
Yeah. So, no, you're not bad then? We're misunderstanding the advertising?
I think I'm misunderstood. I don't think it's bad at all. I think everybody else is just wrong.
Right.
Because I remember having the conversation now saying, well, is it the Doctor? And they said, no, it's not. It's an alternative Doctor in an alternative universe. Okay. And then just get on with it and do it. Yeah, he was, he's kind of gritty and grudging and dark. And I remember instances about it now, which I won't say because it'll spoil anybody who hasn't seen it. But there are some.
It doesn't get released until April. It gets released in April.
Sand. I remember that. There was a lot of sand involved, and deserts, and scrabbling through sand. I wish I could tell you more.
No, that's fine. I mean, as I said, you've got a couple of box sets coming out with Bonnie Langford as well. And then you've also got one coming out with David Tennant. The Out of Time is about to be released.
That was, you see, I've done so much. That was probably about 2 years ago I did that. We weren't there at the same time, even on audio. He'd already recorded his, and I did mine separately. David's a love. I want to get this on record because I really ought to be jealous of David because he's so adored by the public, and his Doctor was wonderful, which is annoying, and all those things. But having met him several times, and he's been at my house here, he's been sitting in that chair behind me when we did some filming for the Five-ish Doctors a couple of years. Gosh, when was that? 5 years ago?
Oh, it's
almost 10 now.
Almost 10.
10 years ago.
It's the 6th anniversary next year. 18 months' time.
Incredible. And he came here, and my daughter didn't know he was coming and opened the door, and David Tennant was standing outside. Come in. But he's one of the nicest people in this business, and to have got that level of success and remain kind and normal, I think I doff my cap to him because I don't think I'm either of those things. But he's so good, isn't he? Such a good actor. He first tiptoed into the world of Doctor Who as an idiot in one I did. He was playing Daft Jamie in the thing about body snatchers.
That's right. Yeah.
And he, bless him, he was a kind of up and coming actor. They said, "Oh, he's going to do well," and he was rather nice. I liked him until he became the Doctor. Then I had to learn how to like him again.
He's you.
He's me. We are, yes.
Now, I think you have 4 daughters, is that correct?
I do.
And you said
none of them have married a doctor either.
Well, that's a good thing.
Annoying. Peter's not one who has.
So you've got one of those become an actor, did you say?
My youngest, Rosie, went to Central and left 2 years ago. And at the same time as... she's actually good. I mean, I know I'm the fond father and all that, but putting my I am not the fond father hat on, I've watched her, and she's a good actress. She's done some Big Finish. She's done 3 or 4 Big Finish, because I obviously asked them if they'd see her, and they did. and she's done a Lone Centurion.
Oh,
and
okay.
She's done a Torchwood. I think she's done 2 Torchwoods. I don't think she's done Doctor Who one.
So is she Baker as well?
Rosie Baker.
Rosie Baker. I will search her up.
Yeah. But at the moment she's working as a nanny because she lives in London and
it's not enough work.
There's no work. And bless him, that Doctor Who actor who did Adulthood and Kidulthood, the films.
Noel Clarke?
Noel Clarke.
Noel Clarke, thank you. Noel Clarke was an event I was at, and I was there with Rosie. And he said, "Oh, you're an actress?" And she said, "Yeah, I've just left Central." And he said, "Who's your agent?" And she told him, and he said, "Don't go with him. I'll find you a better one." And he did. Bless him. He's a nice guy. And he found her a new agent who, a year after she took Rosie on, decided she didn't want to be an agent anymore and closed the business. So poor old Rosie hasn't got an agent. It's not Noel Clarke's fault, but bless him, he meant well. So at the moment she's agentless and trying to break into this business, which is bad enough at the best of times.
Yeah.
But watch out for that name. I'm sure she'll be all right in the end.
We'll look out for her. So what was it like for your family growing up with you being this adored person by so many people? Did they click that what was going on, or they just ignored it all?
They much ignored it all. I remember when my oldest daughter went to school in Henley, which is not far from where I live. They said, "Well, what's your dad do?" And said, "Oh, he's Doctor Who." And the other girl said, "Yeah, so's mine." Georgia Tennant.
Right.
Georgia went to the same school as Lucy. So there were 2 kids in the class whose father was Doctor Who. So, what the heck? What's yours? An accountant? Oh, only one of them. Only one accountant. I think it was very good for them, actually, that it was so commonplace. And I used to have to stand outside the school gate waiting for him to come out with Peter there as well. How you doing? Fine now. It was a funny old world. But in terms of, yeah, you see, I don't know how other actors cope, but I forget. When I'm not working, I'm me. So very often you're out with your family and people say, "Oh," one of the girls will say, "Oh, they're talking about you." Who are those people over there? Because it doesn't matter that much to me. I think, unlike, because Sylvester tells a story about his sons telling him to drop them off a quarter of a mile from the school so that their friends didn't know he was Doctor Who because they were embarrassed. At least I didn't have to do that. But I'm living in the country, you see, everyone knows each other. So I'm no big deal around here anymore. People go, "Oh, hello, Colin," because they've seen me in the shops. In a city, you're always having new people seeing you and maybe recognizing you. I'm amazed how people do. When I've got a mask on, which I do whenever I'm out these days, I still get people saying, "Are you Colin Baker?" And then they've deduced that from that, which is extraordinary. The voice, too, I have to say, does tend to identify me. But you must have seen Five-ish Doctors. Well, that scene in my house pretty much sums it up, really. Quite accurate. Them desperately trying to get away from. I swear that at least 2 of my daughters have never seen a moment of me as Doctor Who. And I think that's quite healthy. Maybe when I'm gone, they'll, "Oh, is that what he did?"
Yeah. Hopefully they think it's good. You used to be involved in lots of charity work in terms of for SIDS. I'm just wondering, are you still involved with any of the charity work?
Yeah, I've reduced a lot of that. I was doing an awful lot at one time. I was chairman for 8 years of the Cot Death charity, the UK. It's now called the Lullaby Trust. It was Foundation for the Study of Infant Death then. And I've also been a school governor for 20 years. I don't know what your system is like in Australia, but the employer, people who employ a school head and all the staff are the school governors, unpaid. It's typical
cheapskate government get a load of volunteers to run something for you and blame them if it goes wrong. But I've done that and I enjoy doing that. It was the school my girls went to, and I've stayed on there. I'm patron of St. Tiggy Winkle's Hedgehog and Wild Animal Hospital, and I am the president of the local Dogs Trust. I used to be on the CCTV lay panel in the town where I live, making sure that CCTV was run properly, and a few other things. But I'm nearly 79. The time has come to talk of many things and not always be at meetings. So I'm just with the school now.
So you've brought back the Doctor, you've brought back Bayban. Is there any other things you're looking to do in the future? Parts you still want to play?
Well, I do love doing Big Finish altogether. And there is a possibility, because Jack Rayner, who is a genius, we discovered we had a similar taste in fiction. I mustn't identify what it is in case it doesn't happen and the people with the rights to the books get the wrong idea. Anyway, there's a series of detective novels that I said I enjoy, and so did she. So we're negotiating at the moment for me to play that character on audio, which I would love to do. I just like working in that genre now, although I'm quite keen to see if I can still do it on the stage. I'm reluctant to trust my degenerating body to a 6-month contract, 8 shows a week. Would I be able to? I don't know. Telly and film, there are a couple of films which I have been promised small roles in, which could come up. And I'd like to do all that again. I'd like to do it and feel I'm safe. What I don't want to do is mix with a load of people with COVID, even though I've had all the appropriate jabs. And you're quite safe because I had an all clear today from a PCR. Because you never know. Putin might have infected the airwaves with viruses. Controversial.
Can I say on behalf of the fans of Big Finish, we are so thankful that you have been such a champion of your Doctor. You have brought back the Sixth Doctor with great aplomb, and I think for many, many people, the Sixth Doctor has now become the favourite Doctor because of your work on audio. And I, for one, can't wait for everything you do, because I know anything that you're going to be in is going to be a great story and really entertaining.
So nice to hear. And in turn, I should put on record, as I always have, my gratitude to Big Finish, because when I started playing the Doctor on television, John Nathan Turner and I agreed that he started off by saying that the previous regeneration into Peter had left him completely weak and enervated, and he was carried around by his companions for the first couple of episodes. And he wanted the reverse of that. He wanted a blast of energy to start the Sixth Doctor out. And I agreed. And I said, I was the one who introduced the notion of Pride and Prejudice, Darcy.
Yeah.
You hate him for 3/4 of the book, and then you realize that he's actually the only truly honourable person in the whole thing. And if you like, you can use Harry Potter for that. The one we hated all the way through was more complex than we thought.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Severus Snape.
Severus Snape, thank you. And I've done the test. I have done the test, and I am Slytherin. I want you to know that.
Okay.
So those are the interesting characters, the ones that don't spoon feed you who they are straight away, the ones who are secure enough to show you the dark side as well as the light side, the ones who have a developmental arc, which is what I wanted with the Sixth Doctor. I wanted to peel back the layers. So we see that this apparently brash, apparently unfeeling, apparently demented iteration of the Doctor was in fact still the Doctor, every bit as much of the Doctor as all the other Doctors, but without feeling the necessity to show what human beings feel a nice person should be. And I gave the example of stepping over a dead body to pick up a butterfly with a broken wing, because that could be mended. And the dead body is gone, and that is sentimental. The Doctor without sentimentality, but with sentiment. Those were all things that I thought were interesting. And of course, we were deflected by what was happening at the BBC, as I discover now. And the writing wasn't always helpful in that. And in the end, it was Nicola and I who decided that our relationship was becoming repetitive and annoying. All she did was bicker, and all I did was treat her appallingly. And each new writer looked at the last script and said, oh, that's their relationship. I'll get on with my story, which I'm writing. So we started to play against the lines and to do it with a twinkle and as if we were taking a mickey. And gradually the relationship softened. But we had to force that. We didn't want to be constantly doing the whinging actress playing a companion and the unfeeling, unkind Doctor treating her like dirt. It was annoying. So thank you, Big Finish, because they certainly sorted all that out for me. And my relationships with all my new companions. And I think now I rather like the Sixth Doctor.
As do many. You said that David Tennant is adored. Well, I can assure you that the Sixth Doctor is adored as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Colin Baker, for being with us today.
A great pleasure, any time.
Imagine, if you will, your friend lies dying. His injuries are mortal. There is no rescue, no salvation, no hope, only death.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who. The Sixth Doctor. The Last Adventure.
Constance Clark, how do you do?
Name?
Charlotte Pollard. Miss Philippa Jackson.
After you, Miss Bush.
The Doctor saves the day again.
My name is Yardvale. Mr. Timothy Yardvale.
Please open the door.
It's a trick. He's lying. How do you know?
No. What? No. No!
Werewolves?
Werewolves, surely.
Well, have it your way. The point is, werewolves on wheels.
Werewolves in uniform? Werewolves in hoods?
Someone is sending a message. A very personal message. To me.
He's saving us. Come on, keep going.
Who's saving us? Where are we going?
Come in, please. Oh, it's just taken a lump out of one of you. Ah! Doctor, for goodness sake, just... Mel? Is that you? Doctor?
You've only got 3 minutes left now.
3 minutes? 3 minutes to save my life. The Valiard is a distillation of all my negative impulses. The simple fact is that I'm a Time Lord who's out of time.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Hello, me one. Hello, me two. I suppose listeners and viewers of the podcast expected that we weren't going to make an appearance, me one. Not a chance, me two. We couldn't miss the 100th episode. Absolutely not. We do have our devoted fan to consider. That's right. It was that fan's letter that gave us the courage and the will to keep going, wasn't it? It was. Obviously, we'd misinterpreted it when the letter said we weren't funny and we should stop making appearances on the podcast immediately. We did, me too. And being told specifically that we lacked all substance or added any value whatsoever to the podcast only gave us the impotence to double down and keep going no matter what. It's what you do in 22, me one. I like that, me too. Even Colin Baker loves us, me one. He does, me too. Check this out. What do you think of the Me One, Me Two segments, Mr. Baker?
It's good.
See? I told you, me too. Didn't you just cut that out of context, me one? Shh, me too. Oh, Philip, that was incredible. To be able to talk to old Sixie.
It was indeed. Colin is just such a lovely, nice guy. And even with all that happened to him on the series, he didn't get bitter. He's come back. He loves the fans. He still loves the character. He's a big man to have dealt with some of the sadness that must have been what happened to him and the embarrassment of being sacked. But that being said, he has come back with just such force. He's just a true gentleman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it was a privilege to have him on for our 100th. So thank you, Colin. We'll go into some of our recommendations now. And what I'd like to recommend is... I can't recommend anything just yet. Well, it's because it's your turn. I don't want to take your turn, Philip.
Gee, on the 100th, it's my turn. How lucky am I? I am going to recommend... I did mention it during the show. My favourite Colin Baker is The Pirates. You all know musical theatre. It's my other passion. Doctor Who becoming musical. It's only one episode. So there's only the second episode, unfortunately. There's not more than that one episode. But there's a number of numbers in it. Helen Goldwyn sings. Colin sings. Evelyn has a number. There's the goodies. Bill Oddie singing as well. So it's one of the times that Bill Oddie, one of the goodies is on Doctor Who as well. Barnaby Edwards directing and... Oh, no, is he directing? He's in it.
Yes. Yes.
And, yeah.
Wasn't going to be Gary doing a musical.
No, I guess not. If you just want 3 episodes and half episodes of absolute fun, and then half an episode of pathos and it will leave you in tears. So, it just runs the whole emotional gauntlet. Brilliantly written, brilliantly directed, brilliantly acted, and... yeah, it's why I love the Sixth Doctor so much, and Evelyn. They're just so wonderful together. So that's my recommendation. Dwayne, I'm sure you have one too, and I'm suspecting it may be a Colin as well.
It may be. Yes, I want to recommend 100, which is the Big Finish monthly range release featuring Colin Baker and Maggie Stables. It is one of those... It wasn't the very first time that Big Finish released a special release like this with 4 one-episode stories on it. But they decided to do that for this release, and it was absolutely superb to go back and listen to. It's been years since I've heard it. And I just want to run through the stories that are on it. The stories are written by 4 of the original Big Finish writers who were there right from the beginning. 100 BC by Jack Rayner. So we've just had The Pirates. You're talking about The Pirates, yep. Philip. Jack Rayner wrote 100 BC, which is incredible. It's a comedy where the Doctor and Evelyn sort of go and interrupt the conception of Julius Caesar. And they have to try and fix that paradox. But then Evelyn suddenly decides that perhaps a female Julius Caesar will change history for the better. So she tries to work against the Doctor in correcting that paradox. So it works beautifully. It's absolutely sensational. We talked recently about The Chimes of Midnight with Todd from Flight for Entirety. But I think this was Rob Shearman's last contribution to Big Finish. And this is 2007. This was released, so a long time ago. My Own Private Wolfgang was an episode there written by Rob Shearman, and it is another comedy, a sort of absurd comedy, just the way Rob Shearman does comedy best. It's featuring John Sessions playing all the guest cast. So he plays everything. I don't know do you remember the story at all?
No, I'm trying to remember how 100 comes, because 100 comes into every story somehow.
The theme of 100. So it's about Amadeus celebrating his 100th birthday.
He didn't die. That's right.
That's right, because
I remember the story. Yes,
he died at 36 originally.
Yes.
Then the history was changed so that he died at 100, and the reason why that has happened is hilarious. It can only come from the brain of Rob Shearman. You've got Bedtime Story by Joseph Lidster, and this one is another story just like you would expect from Joe Lidster, quite dark, quite disturbing, like some of his earlier stories, particularly Master and things like that. By that stage, he'd already done the Cybermen stories too, with Janet Fielding,
yes,
and The Gathering and The Reaping.
Yep.
So Great to see Joe Lidster in that set too. And Paul Cornell, this might be one of his last contributions to Big Finish, the Doctor Who range at least anyway, the 100 Days of the Doctor. So that's where the Doctor's been assassinated. They've got 100 days to find out who did it. So that's a pretty cool run around as well. So, directed by Nick Briggs and script edited by Alan Barnes. So Alan Barnes was going to go on to script edit the monthlies all the way through for the next 100. And, absolutely fascinating to listen to again after such a long time. And boy, do I miss Maggie Stables.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation. 100. Check it out.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. 100.
Oh, Doctor, what a surprise.
No, you are not in control of my body. You can't stop me. Doctor! I'm different from everyone. I'm even different from every other me, and who else can say that? We have control of the speech centers and the mouth.
Perhaps it was a doctor from the future. He's about to fire!
I have 100 days to live.
Classic Doctors, brand new adventures.
Thank you for joining us for this very special episode of the Sirens of Audio. For us, it's been great to have you with us on the journey. We look forward to providing you with much, much more awesome and free content on our YouTube channel or podcast feed, wherever it may be. So thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Audiophiles.
Thank you, everyone. We will catch you again soon. This has been the Sirens of Audio, episode 100, with your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny, and our very special guest, Colin Baker. Theme music by the Jackpot Golden Boys. Contact details, links to our podcast and video locations, social media, and more can be found at sirensofaudio.com. Send us some audio feedback via anchor.fm/sirensofaudio or drop us a line at sirensofaudio@gmail.com to give us your thoughts about a podcast or the latest audio drama you've been listening to, and we'll share it on a future episode. Because audio drama